Oh, now it says.
Thanks for tuning in again to Transforming Your Relationship. We have some amazing ladies tonight that will be having a conversation, and the topic will be whatever wives wish their husband knew. So, husbands, grab a friend, grab a cousin, whatever the case might be. But we're going to have a great conversation. This topic's been basically floating around in my mind here for quite some time. So we decided to get some ladies together and touch some different topics here. Last week we touched some topics on appreciation. We touched a topic on motherhood challenge, date nights, and 40 plus mindset. So tonight we will be speaking about me time, do you know me, emotional bank account, and compatibility and the indifference thereof in the relationship. So my guests tonight are some beautiful ladies: Marcia Terry, Karen Jackson, Michelle Walters, um, Ingrid Ingrid Gentles. Think I got you ladies all right. Okay. So let's start, ladies. Whatever your wives wished your husband knew. Let's start off with uh, me time. Who wants to chime in on that? Me time. Whatever wives wished your husband knew when it came to me time. Marsha's got a big grin on her face, like she's got something brewing there already. So feel free to
Jump in.
just jump in along with any one of the other ladies. Go ahead.
Well, this is my area of expertise.
It is. It is. It is.
Some
That's
of
why
you
she
know.
smiled. That's why she smiles so big. Okay.
Some of you know. So I'm glad to be here today. My name is Marcia Terry, and I am the founder of Cultivated Wellness. I am also a mother of two children. I've been married for 20 some years. So me time. So 20 some years being married, two kids. I think that a lot of women that are married or have been married a year or two, doesn't really matter, struggles with finding me time. Like, how do you take care of yourself? I've been fortunate to teach a class that's called Discovering the Power of Self Care. And in
Beautiful.
this process, I've learned how valuable me time is. And I've really kind of shifted also what I teach. I used to be very rigid about what people used to do at certain times of day, blah, 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 but I'm not that rigid anymore. But really, what me time is all about is making sure at some point during the day, you take time to invest in yourself. Take time to be quiet, take time to turn off your phone, take time to minimize all distractions, not be
Hmm.
surrounded by anybody or anything, and just focus on you. I think it's really hard for women to do at the beginning, but it has been a game changer in my life. My me time is in the morning, like 5:30 in the morning for about an hour. My husband knows not to talk to me during that time. But what's beautiful is that that's also become his me time. So he's
Okay.
now walking, doing his exercise, meditation, quiet time, listening to something empowering during this first hour of the day. I think it's important in the beginning, but whenever you can do it, I think it's a game changer.
Just a question. How does that elevate the health of your relationship?
Because we're more in sync, I think during that
One
time
sync?
of quietness, you do a lot of self reflection. And I get a lot of ahas in my morning. I had an aha the other day, and when I came out of my office space that I'm in right now, I went in and I
Hmm.
was able to share that with my husband. So I just think that you're able to be very self-reflective, and that opens up channels of communication.
Okay, beautiful. Self-reflective and more in sync. Oh Lord have mercy. Lord knows what happened when you're more in sync. We won't even go there tonight. Any other ladies you want to come in on that me time? Why and when do you find it's the most important time when you really do it? Is there a point in your day or during the week when you really feel that I need to have this me time? Any one of you folks? Ingrid.
Yes, actually, I concur. I do believe that me time is necessary to find time to pray, to rest, to reset, to recoup, to rediscover yourself as an individual. And it allows each individual actually to work out our internal issues and conflicts without actually putting that demand on our spouse. So this is the time where you get to sit by yourself, both of us, and reflect internally and be truthful to what's actually going on inside of us. Things that we need to sort of deal with. For example, maybe forgiveness, anger, disappointment in something that our spouse didn't do or didn't measure up to. And so I think in relationships, a lot of times we look to our spouse to be our savior, and
Right.
spouses make horrible saviors. They're not God, you know.
My.
And so we really have to revisit ourselves and what we are contributing in the relationship, and where we fall short, because it's always so easy to deflect, because then you don't have to look at yourself and what needs to be fixed. So I find for me, that's the time that I take to actually deal with any issues of unforgiveness that maybe I thought I did when I really haven't really addressed it fully. Or if I'm disappointed or angry about something, I have to address that, and that's between me and God. That's not my spouse.
Right.
And so for me, that's the purpose of me time, to sort of self-reflect, and to become a higher version of Ingrid, So that's what I do. Yeah.
Well, I like that. Reflection and a higher version of Ingrid. I could go there, but I'll give the other individual a chance, because I want to know, what is a higher version of Ingrid? What would that look like? But what would that look like? And just maybe a word or a sentence or two. What would a higher version of yourself look like with all that?
Well, one of the things that I'm learning actually is that the things that used to impact me, that would really, even the small things that would really impact me, I'm learning now to just move on quickly from those things, things that I would have sat down with for a long time and wrestle with, is becoming less and less, having that kind of control over me,
Right.
so that's one aspect of it as well. And
Okay.
I guess, that would be an aspect of it. I could go on and on, but yeah.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, definitely. And I'll just put that in because we're both retired, so
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
really care about some things less than you used to.
Correct. That's right. Yeah.
And if we're not careful, we could have less patience for some things also. But Michelle, you got something to say when it comes to me time. Say, Karen, and you can chime in too also. And if not, we can just move on.
I'm actually just learning. I'm learning from you all. So I'm taking
Okay.
notes
I'm taking
because
notes too.
I'm working on that me time thing.
Yeah.
So how of a challenge you find that?
Me
Yeah,
at this moment is challenging.
it's challenging.
Yes.
Okay.
I did take the self-care course with Marsha. I
Nice.
think it was 2 years ago. No, it's almost 2 years. No, she did one very excellent exercise, and I did it, and it was very, very revealing. But since then, like, a lot has, come up in our lives, and it's just hard to fall in suit
Right.
of having me time, at
Mm.
least right now for me. So, but I'm taking notes, ladies.
Well, Marsha has
Just being
impacted my life.
transparent. Just being
Hey, no, I
transparent.
appreciate your transparency. Marsha has, she's impacted my life too. I've known Marsha for over 50 years now, if I'm not mistaken, actually. So we've
Little
come
more.
along. Was it more? Okay, she did say it's more. And she has something called, you can check out her website. What is your website, Marsha? Marsha Terry. what's it?
MarshaTerry.com.
MarshaTerry.com. Very simple. I believe you got something on there called Masterful Morning still?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So I went through that little ebook that she had on Masterful Morning, a few videos that she had on there, and it's amazing. If you ever go there and just practice those simple little techniques or little habits that you have in the morning, because what's the first thing that we do in the morning is we pick up our cell phone and so forth, and you lose a sync of maybe what you want to do during the day. But having that masterful morning, it's a time where you can reflect, like just like what some of you have been saying, and it's a me time before the day even start. I'm not. It's as if the program's designed so you don't have to wait for the middle of the day or the end of the day to have your me time. Why not have your me time at the beginning of the day? Because that's going to basically set up how you are going to create the day, or you're going to allow the day to create you. So me time. Michelle, do you have anything to say on
Sure.
that before we move on?
Before I move on, yeah, sure. I definitely think that Karen, myself, anybody that's in that situation where they feel like they're still struggling to learn to take that me time, don't
Hmm.
feel bad about it, but definitely take action on it, because I definitely am always going, and I really find, well, for me, I was going to say, oh, as I get older, but I don't think that's even the truth. What I recognize about my personality, I never realized that I was not alone in this, is that people actually drain me. And so, and when I say that, I'm not necessarily that people, it's always a negative thing. It's just people pull from me just naturally. It's like I love to help people and I love to give and I love to be there for people, but
Hmm.
people do take the energy from you. So I found
Yeah.
that it's very, very important that I do spend a certain amount of time, most, at least every day. I try to do it every day, but at least most days, like kind
Hmm.
of just having, being at peace. And I was laughing because my son was actually just fussing about this before I came to do this, where he right now does not have his own bedroom. So he's kind of like, everybody will come out and everyone's like just doing all, and they're making all this noise and they're doing this and doing that. And I'm like, but at least you get to go someplace and be by yourself. I always, I'm married, so I always have a partner. There's always somebody. Sometimes I try to go in the bathroom and be by myself. I can't even do that. Like, still, as quick as
I've
my
heard
kids
that.
are,
And
I
then they
still
come knocking on the door. Yep,
yeah.
I've heard that too.
Yeah, but so sometimes I take advantage, in the mornings, usually everyone is asleep. So I do try to take advantage of at least 10-15 minutes. I know
Beautiful.
that if I did follow what Marcia
Hmm.
taught me and got up earlier, I would definitely have plenty of time. But
Yeah.
I'm also not a morning person and I'm always
Okay.
in bed like late. So anyways, my whole point is I think it's just important to make it fit where you can. So
Right.
I have had times where in the middle of the day I've like just stolen away for 15
Okay.
minutes and being able to do that. Mhm.
Mm. No, beautiful. With you ladies being mothers and everything else, and with everything else you got going on, sometimes you ask yourself, "My, do I deserve this me time? Because I've got so much things I've got to get done here for the day. Where do I even find me time? I mean, uh, but I would just say, you know what? Give yourself permission. Give yourself permission to take the time that you need to reboot. Give yourself permission to just do some self reflection, whether it be the 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 50 minutes, half an hour, whatever the case is, right? Because if you don't give yourself permission, nobody else is going to give yourself permission. And they will interrupt your day and take over your day also.
Can I just add one more thing?
No, absolutely. Go ahead.
And I won't say anything else. It's very
No,
simple.
that's okay. This is what it's all about.
Simple, just because of what you just said, I thought, everybody knows you can't pour from an empty cup,
Right.
right? So if you are not filled, if your vessel is not filled,
Mm,
what do you have left to give? You don't have anything to give. So you have to
right.
find time. That's why it's so crucial to find the time to refill yourself. That is the
Mm,
mystery. As Michelle said, it's not easy for her necessarily to do it in the morning, but I feel like that's really is a sweet spot. And so whatever time it is though that you find, I listen to people and I realize that people are like Michelle, they're like Karen, they struggle to get up in the morning. So
right.
you have to adjust it to doing it at some time during the day and
Sometime.
being consistent about it. P period, the end. It's like it's a non-negotiable.
Absolutely. I like that non-negotiable. So wife that's listening out there, and even husbands, check out marshaterry.com. As you were saying that too, Marsha, you can't give out from an empty cup. Even from a half full cup, you can give, but still not at the peak where you should be. Um, I have a saying I've learned some years ago, and this is something to be mindful of: is if you don't give yourself that me time as wives that you need to give yourself, and even for the husband that might listen, but we're saying here, whatever wives wish their husband knew. So we want the husband to know that if the wives don't get their me times, after a while, the saying goes like this: your body whispers to you before it shuts you down. So if you don't give yourself me time, guess what? Your body will shut you down, and you will get your me time, and it will probably be longer than you anticipated for, right? So the bottom line is listen to your body rather than trying to fill up everybody else, which we try to be all things to all individuals, but it doesn't work that way all the time. All right, beautiful. So let's go on to, are we all clear on that, ladies? Yes?
Oh, yeah.
Thumbs up?
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
Whatever wives wish your husband knew, those that have just tuned in, that's the topic here tonight from Transformation Love Coaching here. That's our program that we have. The topic is tonight, what every wives wish their husband knew. So whatever wives wish their husband knew when it comes to emotional bank account, some individual might be saying, so what is that anyways? What is this emotional bank account? Like, can you find this in the dictionary? My mother never taught me nothing about that. Who want to touch on that? Emotional bank account. And what is an emotional bank account? And how do we make deposit? How can he make deposit to your emotional bank account? Anyone can chime in.
I'm not sure I know exactly
Okay.
the emotional bank account, but when I was thinking about the question, um, I wish our husbands would know how to be vulnerable,
Mm,
to be direct and honest about how they're feeling, what they're going through, about the relationship. Just let their vulnerability so
yeah.
everything could be opened.
Is that because as a wife that you feel you're so vulnerable and you're so open and you're not getting that back?
Yeah.
Or just wives in general that you know also?
I'm only, I guess, I'm not an expert. I'm only speaking from
I don't.
experience. I just find that, and I think because there's a pride thing with men,
Okay.
um, that they don't give the whole of themselves, or maybe they don't know how.
Hmm.
I don't
So
know. I
what?
don't know if it has to go with emotional bank account, but that's what I
No.
was thinking when
Mhm.
that question came up.
Right. No, good. Um, I don't want to do all the talking too because I can come in and do a bit of explanation there. But is there
Well,
anybody else want to chime in on that? An emotional bank account.
well, I
Every
think
woman have it. Every man have it. Go ahead, Ingrid.
I just listening to Karen, I suspect that that would be, the relationship that both a husband and a wife have,
Hmm.
the oneness with each other. And I think when I think of a bank account in the natural, what you deposit
Right.
um, grows,
Hmm.
and if you keep withdrawing, then you're depleting your finances and puts you in
Right.
a vulnerable situation financially. So I
Right.
think I'd like to say that with an emotional bank account, is that what you deposit into your marriage or into your relationship
Right.
um, grows and builds something very healthy and solid and secure.
Mhm.
And I guess how you could deposit is by how you treat your spouse.
Okay.
By complimenting your spouse, letting them know, you know what, I think you did a great job with the
Hmm.
kids
Okay.
tonight,
Good.
allowing me to get some other work done. Thank you for seeing the kids off to bed tonight, that sort of thing. Or, if your spouse comes home from work and is had a difficult time at work and,
Right.
wants someone just to talk to, which should be his wife or his partner,
Right.
um, that, you are all ears, full attention,
Hmm.
allowing him or her to be vulnerable, and allowing them to feel safe to express, you know what, honey, at work today, my boss said something that made me feel really incompetent. And I
Mm,
felt like I looked ridiculous in front of everyone, right? And so I'm coming home with this burden of on my shoulder, feeling less than. Here's an opportunity for you to help to build his self-esteem, being
mhm.
his cheerleader and letting
Right.
him know his value and his worth, building him up again so that the next morning he can get up and go to work and face these coworkers and so forth. So, it's just, I think it's just showing an interest, being positive, as opposed to being negative. I think negative behaviors, negative response is a
Mhm.
depleting your
Right.
emotional bank account where, you're losing, trust in each other or interest in each other because that safety net of environment is not there to cultivate
Mhm.
the security that we need from each other. So that's just how I think about that.
No, no, it's beautiful. You mentioned about deposit positive things into one another's lives. For him to deposit positive things into your to validate you, to confirm maybe some things that you need a confirmation on. So here's a question. So what would be an example of a withdrawal from? And anybody can come in to what would be an example of a withdrawal from a wife's bank account?
I don't know that I'm going to answer that question yet.
Okay, go ahead. Are you going to go off track here?
No, I'm not going to go off track. I'm
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 just joking.
thinking about what Ingrid was saying.
No, beautiful.
And so I took notes, and I was
Good.
thinking about what Karen was saying. So before you
Right.
ask the next question,
Yeah.
what I was thinking about was this week on social media, I posted something very simple.
Mm,
Seems simple, right? That I had a crazy day at work, was up early, had several doctor's appointments, and I came home, opened my bedroom door, and I walked in as I normally would do. And there on my side table was this beautiful bouquet of flowers. It was like
oh,
this,
wow.
right? And so it's not my birthday, it's not my anniversary, it's not nothing special. It's just because, right? So I
Awesome.
think that when you your partner using things just because it deposits into your spouse's emotional bank account, right?
Absolutely.
And so
Yeah.
it made me feel good. Actually made me tear up, and I got all emotional. And my husband wrote this letter, which he's not that person, right? So it
Mhm.
just made such an impact on me because it seemed like a little thing, but it was actually very big, right?
Mm,
So I think when we take time to do the little things, when we recognize our partner and we say to them that I see you, I hear you, I see what you're going through, that
right.
is a deposit into their bank account. So today, I didn't even think about it. My husband worked in our other office, and I know when he goes over there, he's gonna be busy all day and probably not have time to get lunch. Like, I packed his lunch. It wasn't a thing.
Right.
Just packed his lunch.
Hmm.
And on his way to work, he sent me a text message. Thank you so much for packing my lunch. That made me
Nice.
feel good,
Yeah, absolutely.
right? So it's that I think that you have to be, it goes back to the me time. When
Hmm.
you're being self aware and you're investing in yourself, you're actually able to pay more attention to your spouse and their needs and not so much thinking about your own self and your own needs. Yes, you need to take
Right.
the time to figure out what that is, but in
Hmm.
doing so, you're able to see your spouse and evaluate and understand and recognize what they need to be able to deposit into them so that they can turn around
Beautiful.
and deposit into you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And so one of the questions I had is, what's a what's one? I'd like each ladies to answer this one because you might all be in sync on this one. It's still around the same topic of emotional bank account. What's one of the biggest withdrawals do you find that wives find that husbands, when the husband withdraw from the wife's emotional bank account? Give me something that registers with you that us men do that just, you made two deposit last night, but you just withdrew through this three this morning.
I think it's not recognizing how much time it takes to do things.
Okay.
You know, like it takes time to put away the laundry,
Mhm.
for example. You know, you want to get busy in the night or whatever, it takes time for me to put away the laundry. So if you're helping me put away the laundry or helping do the dishes or clean up the kitchen, so it's that factor of time, I think, is not recognizing how much time it takes to do things around the home.
So that's okay. And that sounds like it's a nonverbal one, which is a withdrawal because of uh, the non-conversation that went on even at the time, just by what you had seen. Correct?
Right.
Okay. Michelle, give me withdrawal. What do you find most wives? What's so common out there with the wives that husbands,
It's hard for
you
me to
know?
talk about most wives. I could just tell you what I go through.
I was trying to be general, but okay. Yeah, you're so straightforward. I love it.
I know that's why I'm like sitting here thinking, like, what have my friends complained? But I think, I mean, no, honestly though, I think that Marsha really hit the nail on the head. Something like that, where some people look at it like, oh, it's a gender role, like you're the woman, you're supposed to do this, or you're the man and
Okay.
you're supposed to do that. And
Right.
I think if, I think I said this last time, one thing I learned from my husband, and he always says this, and I do agree with him, is that if you look at it like, not even about marriage being a partnership, but just look at the other person as someone that you love and respect and adore. You should want
Mm-hmm.
the best for them. So if I'm always looking out for the best for my husband, he's looking out
Right.
for the best for me, then
Right.
we should be good, right? But sometimes in reality, to work that out,
Mm-hmm.
like Marcia said, then that's when you're going to do the things like, okay, well, goodness, I know I just came in from work, but she just came in from work too. Let me make sure that let me start the dinner, or let me clean up after the dinner, or something like that. But a lot of times, you know, we get stuck there. But sometimes it's just even just, you know, asking like, or what would be a withdrawal would be sometimes the things you don't do sometimes, like if
Mm-hmm.
you, how was your day at work today? You know, and not that, and I think as a woman too, we shouldn't always be complaining and moaning and groaning about stuff, but like just even just checking in, like, you know, how was your day today? Did you have a good day today? Is there anything I can do
Right.
to make your day better if you had a
Right.
bad day? Those
Mm-hmm.
kind of conversations, I think would help to deposit. So when you're doing the opposite of it, I guess that would be considered a withdrawal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Karen, do you have anything to add to that before we move on to the next one that you might see?
Time is a big thing. Time,
Time. If they don't give, if he doesn't give you the time that
energy,
you need, what's that? I didn't get that.
using up your energy.
If he doesn't give you the time, you're using up your energy.
No, I'm just, that's another thing.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Using up your energy. Right. And you know what? Sometimes, yeah, husbands, us men, we might say something sometimes. I mean, let's be honest. And sometimes it might not come off the way we might want it to. Um, and and when we recognize that, it's just basically coming back and making things right. And by making things right, you know what, you're topping back up that emotional bank account again. So that's what the wife would just wish that every husband would know out there too, right? If you don't give me the time that I need, uh, even to give myself permission to have my me time, and you might be having all your me time, but you know you might be playing your games all the time or going out with the boys, but what about me also, right? All right, so thank you guys for chiming in on that. So let's move on to intimacy. Whatever wives wish the husband knew when it came to intimacy. You know, it's not all about the bedroom. So what acts of intimacy do you feel that they could create before you move up to the stairs, before you go to the bedroom, before you close the door? Because I just don't want to be there, but I want to be in the mood so we can be one like we were meant to be one. But before we get there, what acts of intimacy do you feel husbands need to create or be aware of for the wives to just give themselves fully like they were meant to in that relationship.
I believe that Marcia gave a perfect example of that, actually, that her husband sent her flowers, roses,
Yeah.
unexpectedly. Um,
Mm,
as you said, intimacy starts way beyond the bedroom, the physical
right,
touch and so forth.
right.
Women, we are emotional beings, emotional creatures, and
Mm,
so we need to feel um, appreciated, love, and all that goes with being a woman and a mother. And so husbands need to, I would say, start from, from the time you wake up before you even get home, do things to show her that, you love her, to show her that she's important and she's valued. Give her a
right,
phone call. Send these days that you can't, you send a text, for example, just
right.
reminding her, sending these little stickers with these little hugs and stuff. You'd be surprised
Hmm.
how we respond to that, because the fact that he's at work or at home taking the time is letting you know that he's thinking of you.
Right.
And
Beautiful.
so that in itself is now creating, this feeling in your heart and
Hmm.
these thoughts in your mind about your husband. And so I believe that that whole process starts from the time you wake up in the morning and you go through those doors. If
Right.
you come in, things should be done. If he gets home before you, he can probably start with the children, helping them with their homework, giving them a bath, or
Hmm.
whatever it
That's
is,
all
just to
beautiful.
make your day lighter and
Right.
easier.
Right.
So that, as
Hmm.
mentioned by so many of us women, that we're not so exhausted that we
Right.
aren't able to fill our wifely duties.
Hmm.
And so I just believe that it's a process throughout the day. It's not just a one-time thing. And
Right.
so we respond to things like that very well.
I like that last part that you said. It's a process
Yeah.
throughout throughout the day, from the time you get up in the morning until the time. What are what do you feel are some of the roadblocks that when it comes to intimacy? What are some roadblocks you feel are when it comes to intimacy?
I
I
think
think.
going back to what, sorry, Marcia. Okay.
No, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead.
Thinking back to what Karen said a little bit earlier about being vulnerable and allowing yourself to share a certain part of you. Like if you, if as a spouse, you never really share your true self and your true or feel comfortable sharing that vulnerable side of yourself, I really don't understand how you can really be truly intimate, because like you
Mm,
said, intimacy to me anyways is like you said, before the bedroom. It's really more about what are we, like, us having that connection, us
right.
having those times together. And again too, like, you also want to feel like, you don't want to ever feel like, well, if I do this for you, then this means it's going to result in, like, say, a sexual favor. Like, don't not
Yeah.
talk to me all week, but then because you want some, you're going to talk to me today all day and be asking
Right.
how
Okay.
you doing.
Okay.
No,
Yeah, we don't.
intimacy means we have a connection and we thrive off of each other and we love on each other. We uplift each other when we're down, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so now that's how you're building intimacy. So that those are different ways to do it, so that you're not getting, oh, I'm tired, or I have a headache, or whatever, from the woman, right?
Well, well, in that case, I will advise of a man to have an Advil or aspirin beside the bed. We have a solution to the problem.
I
Marsha,
think,
you want to go ahead,
yeah,
Marsha?
I think that in concert with what the other ladies are saying, that I think for women, intimacy, like, is definitely an emotional thing. And it starts, I think a lot of it times it starts by how you communicate with one another. And so communication is not just in the bedroom. Communication is not just texting and calling either. Maybe it's just, a hold of the hand. Maybe it's just, a hug. Maybe it is just, sitting down and doing something together that you both enjoy. My husband and I,
Right.
we've been doing that a lot more lately. We're able to sit, because of where we live, outside on the patio in the
Okay.
evening and just kind of chillax together,
Mhm.
and have really great conversations. So I think it starts with communication. And it is what Ingrid said, it starts at the beginning of the day. You got to set it up, really, from the beginning of the day, but also not this expectation that because, you're doing something, there's an expectation of something going to happen that night or whatever. I think
Right.
it's just, you have to
Right.
be cognizant of it. And
Mhm.
it's really about communication and being in tune with how we communicate. But the things make me feel good about me, I got to learn also what makes you feel good about you. That
Absolutely.
helps to
Mhm.
have much more intimate, more intimate moments.
Learning more
And
about
I
one
think
another. Go
adding
ahead.
to I know we said you were going to talk about it later, but the love
No, go ahead.
language.
Oh, go ahead. We'll just jump into that even right after. Yeah.
No, I'm just saying that will help get to that intimacy level, like to the next level, is knowing each other's love language and
Mm.
sharing each other's, you know, like whether you're a touchy, lovey person or you're a
Right.
service person.
Mhm.
I like to be like, you know, somebody's gonna think outside the box, go wash the car or do that. That's my love language. Whereas somebody
Right.
else might be touchy and hold my
Right.
hands, and but learning that and getting to know each other deeper in that way could help
Mhm.
with intimacy. I do have a question for the panel. I'm sorry.
Oh, great
It has to do
stuff.
with intimacy too, but like
Okay.
getting to the next level of intimacy, how like do you get into like spiritual sexual thing with your spouse at that
Mm.
level? Is that like a really high level that people strive at, or have you heard that?
Oh, that's a good one. Spiritual intimacy. Covered that last week in another program. But go ahead, ladies. How do we get there? That's the question you're asking, right?
Mhm. I'm not talking like spiritual, like praying or what. I'm talking
Right.
your where
Okay.
Ingrid talked about that oneness, right? And
Right.
your spirit, and how do you get to that level?
Okay.
I
Or is
mean,
that a level? Is that a level?
I think just off the cuff, it's about connection, right? So if you're not connecting and if you're not connecting emotionally with one another, then how, even though you may have the physical connection, what's really happening?
Mhm.
You're not really getting anything from it because you're not emotionally connected. And I think when you have an emotional disconnection, then you cannot ascend to the higher level of the spiritual connection that you're referring to. That's me just
Right.
thinking.
Okay. No good.
I would like to add though, even though we're not in this case talking about spirit meaning Holy Spirit, we're talking
Right.
about like a spiritual, like intimate
Spiritual. That's right.
connection,
We're all
like
spiritual beings.
relational, right?
Yeah.
But I still think that the Holy Spirit is a part of it. So I'm not sitting here saying I'm having Bible study and speaking in tongues before I get intimate with my husband. That's not what I'm saying. But I think that if you're even if you're not on the exact same level, because we're all human, we all have a different relationship with Christ. But if you both are communing with with Christ, if you're both maybe whether you're both going to church together, whether you're praying together, reading the Word of God together, I think that also helps to draw you closer and to have that connection. Because I would think that the close, yeah, I really think that's where a lot of times where we're missing. Now, again, I'm not talking about oh, like, let's go read our Bible, and then this is going to make us want to be open together. I'm talking about what happens when you are studying God's word together, or when you are reading God's word together, or when you're listening to the same sermons and you're giving each other feedback. I notice that gives you this connection, like this. We get each other. We are maybe in the same place with God, or maybe we're in a different place with God. I thought about it
Right.
this way, and you thought about it that way. But either
Right.
way, there is something to be said about the spiritual connection with my father that allows me to have a great spiritual connection with my spouse as well.
Mm. My, well said. Beautiful. I heard earlier also too is that the lack of vulnerability will shut down my ability to be intimate. So I can be more intimate with you if you will be more open with me, if you'll be more vulnerable. I want to see your vulnerable side. And as husbands, we try to hide our vulnerable side. We maybe try to hide our weak side, but the wives are saying, I want to see that also. I mean, there's more to that that just makes you a strong man. And and just being able to have that conversation and to be open up to me fully, whether right or wrong, just to sit down and talk. So, Karen, we're going to explore a little bit on what you're saying there too, and because it's flown into, I just blended into the next little topic I had. It was deal with compatibility and the indifference thereof, right? And I know I was talking to Ingrid a little bit about that. So, Ingrid, do you want to share a little bit about that? Karen, is there anything else that you gleaned from these two ladies, or is there something more too that you?
No, and let's get
It's up.
into it. Vulnerability and compatibility. Let's
Okay.
get into it.
I think I would like to just add a little bit to what's just been said,
Yep,
since
go
we
ahead.
go into that whole compatibility.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, when two people meet initially in the beginning stage, you have this butterfly feeling and this feeling of, they call it the honeymoon stage, if I can say it that way, that,
Right.
lasts, for a short period of time. Some people say it lasts for 2 years. And then you get into the real meat of things. But I do
Mhm.
believe that when a couple is married for particularly an extensive period of time, I
Right.
think I think Marcia mentioned she's married for over 20 years, if I'm not mistaken. You can correct me on that. But when you've been married for an extensive period of time, there is something that happens in that marriage. Um,
Right.
the marriage takes on a different level, a deeper meaning
Mm.
that is sort of way beyond um, when our emotional needs are not always being met, or disappointments where we experience it metamorphoses into something so much deeper, where the two people become actually one,
Right. Right.
oneness in
Mhm.
spirit. And when you get to that place of oneness in spirit, then you have such an amazing foundation that is not based on external forces, where sometimes where your spouse might fall short, or your emotional needs are not met. Sometimes even sexual incompatibility can be an issue in a marriage. That
Mhm.
is a fact, right? But if you and your spouse have a very, very deep connection, that oneness, that you've gone into that wholeness, even if you are not sexually compatible, equally, and so forth, you can rise above that, because what you have is far more deeper and stronger than the
Yes.
actual physical connection. And
Right.
if you happen to be married for a longer period of time, then you start to realize that the physical is not the most important,
Important. Right.
because
Hmm.
let's face it, things change, we change, our bodies change, our desires change, our needs
Right.
change as we're getting older, right? And so as you're getting older, you are becoming even that much more oneness with your
Excuse me.
spouse, where you can actually, you know, finish his sentences, finish her sentences. You can actually sometimes, just by looking at them and them looking at you, know what they're thinking. You can communicate with each other without even speaking, you
Right.
know. And so I believe that is the actual goal that we should be working towards in a marriage, to get into that depth of oneness that is beyond the surface of, our pleasures not always being met, or disappointments in the marriage in whatever direction or areas.
Hmm.
Recognizing that we are one in spirit, and,
Amen.
and and we are secure, knowing that we're going to last until death do us part.
Oh, preach, my sister, preach.
Yeah, yeah,
No, beautiful.
yeah.
When it comes to compatibility, I believe our core values, which is so important in a relationship, or core values, have to be aligned. Otherwise, you're going to be misaligned down the road. but you kind of know that up front. My core values can be aligned, so we're compatible in that area. But there's other areas we might not be compatible outside our core values. For an example, I might like football, you might like hockey, or you might like go to the mall. I don't like go to the mall, but at the end of the day, it's not what I like, it's what you like. But I'm going to join you in your world, and you're going to join me in my world. And as time goes on, it actually, excuse me, it creates another level of connection between the husband and his wife, because you're learning also different things about the individuals based on the different likes and dislikes as you get older. Like
I
somebody said to me, one minute, somebody said to me, as you get older, okay, so you might not be sexually active, so like as I would say, maybe like what else might be there? Kind of like sort of like, we're not maybe lovey-dovey. Yeah, well, I've been married for we're not 37 years now. I'm still lovey-dovey. Marcia knows that around me. Probably ask me sometime to tone it down, but that's just me. Even in the church, they already know that, right? Not a big thing for me to go up and kiss my wife, and I don't care who's around, right? And I
Amen.
don't ever want that to die. So even other areas might change in my life as I get older,
Yeah.
but our incompatibility at that time outside of our values don't have to challenge our relationship, but it can actually uh, make us look at things a little bit differently, maybe than we haven't done before. Someone's going to
I
say
just want
something.
to.
Was that?
Oh, I was gonna, because you just said something about the compatibility, about like you like this and you don't like this, and what jumped into my head was being less of yourself, like getting rid of selfishness to come together. I
Right.
don't know, is that
Mhm.
a thing? Like, is that what I think I heard you
Yeah.
were saying
So
about the
uh,
compatibility? Like,
uh, when you look at it, I'd be selfish to do everything that I want to do. That would create a challenge. That would create a conflict. So the other individual got to have that. And your values might already have been aligned, but there's something that you still like to do where they might not like to do. But it's for the other individual to understand this is not really about me right now. This is not even about Karen altogether. This is
Yeah.
about the relationship
Yeah.
that we still want to continue to journey on. So if I make this thing about me, yeah, like bluntly, it's then we have that selfish nature, selfish attitude, and we're basically saying, I don't care if you want this or that. Well, I'm not going to do that, right? I'm not one that love going shopping in the mall and whatever. But guess what? If my wife says, "Hey, I want to go look at something in the mall," hey, you know what? I'm going to go to the mall. Matter of fact, I will choose to ask her maybe when we're just winding down and nothing's happening. Hey, do you want to go to the mall and just look around? Because like look around jewelries and whatnot, which women don't, right? And she might take a second look at me as if to say, like, where did my husband go? No, it's not about me. It's about you. I know you like this, right? So as men, we've got to understand. And again, going back to a topic, whatever wives wish their husband knew, is that there's something that I like that you might not like, but don't just do it for me. Do it for the relationship. That makes the difference. Otherwise, it's a one-track mindset.
and that will bring on that oneness,
And that
that
will bring on that
wholeness.
oneness, exactly the oneness that Ingrid spoke about here earlier, also, and that was already mentioned from Marcia and some others also.
Mhm.
So I have perspective that might be a little bit different, but not
Absolutely,
maybe.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
think that a lot of times, you know, growing up, we're not encouraged to be curious. And I
Mm,
think that in your relationship, you can be curious.
right.
And I think that a lot of times, maybe we're taught to feel shame about intimacy.
Yeah.
And so then that prohibits you from being curious. And it ties into the vulnerability part, right? So if you don't have this ability to be curious and ask questions and explore together, then how do you really know who you're married to, or what, if you're compatible or not incompatible? So I think it's, as even in my coaching, one of the things that they always emphasize is like, be curious, ask questions.
Right. Hmm.
I don't think there's anything wrong in that, but I think a lot of times we are taught that, well, you shouldn't ask that question or that's taboo or whatever the case may be. But within the confines of your marriage, I think that you should be able to talk about whatever and determine if is this outside of our core values.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Be willing to explore with each other.
No, it's beautiful. Again, you mentioned vulnerability because vulnerability in itself, it creates creativity. It creates something different that we never had before. And so, if our other party can understand that we're creating something here that's different, we might have never done this before. And Marsh, you're so right when it comes to coaching. Yeah, we ask a lot of questions because we're curious. You said a certain word, so what does that mean, and so forth and so forth, right? But I've also said to as wives and vice versa, as wives, if we ask more open-ended questions, you'll get more content to what you need to hear, rather than a closed-ended question. A closed-ended question, you're going to get yes or no. So, how was your day today? Fine. Closed-ended. So tell me about your day. What were some challenges? What was some win that you had today? Begin to open up. It's not just a one-word thing, right? So, yeah. So back to vulnerability. Vulnerability creates creativity. It creates something different. It creates something special. It creates something unique. But you have to be able to go there and to open up and to be curious and to become even more one. Get into that oneness piece. Karen, does that answer? Does that
Yeah.
answer or give you some context to?
You're muted,
Should,
Karen. We didn't hear what you said.
Oh,
yeah.
automatically mutes. I said it was good. I got my notes.
Oh, you got your notes. Okay, she's going to have her own show next. Okay,
Yeah.
we got that. So vulnerability, creativity. Let's just go into the love language. We got 10 more minutes left. Okay, count them. We got 10 more minutes left. Appreciate your time and everything else that you folks have. Love language. Does the husband even know what their love language is? I mean, we talk about it. You know, those that's in self-development, the coaching world. We'll have more of an insight and awareness on that. But I know there's a lot of husbands like. So what is that? Is that something that was just developed, or so? What do you wish your husband knew when it comes to love language or your love language? And for those that's listening, my website is TLC Bonitto Grange .com, and there's a download there for red flags, but you also can connect me with there, and we can also do a love language assessment on it, see what exactly your love language is. Don't cost you nothing. So you can just check in there, or you can check in at marshaterry.com. She'd be more than pleased to give you some insight to that also. So whatever wise wish your husband you when it came to love language.
Well, I'm going to say I know my husband's love language. I think some people here know his love language too. And I love my husband. This is definitely words of affirmation.
Words of affirmation?
Words of affirmation.
Okay, that's a bad thing.
And I know mine is gifts of service. So I think that I've learned how to affirm him.
Okay.
And by doing so, he actually feeds into my love language.
Mm,
So I think when you're able to learn and tap into what it is for your spouse,
right.
and I don't need words of affirmation, so
Okay.
I don't need that, but it's not at the top of my list.
Right.
But that's at the top of his list, and that's okay. And I think it's when you recognize what it is and you feed that, then it's amazing what you get fed. Because then they're going to be, going back to the word curious about, well, what is it that I need to do or say to pour into you?
And with your love language, and this could be to you also, Marcia, and others also that's listening there too. How often would that show up during the week? Or how often would you want that to show up where your love language is concerned? Is twice a day too much? 3 times a day? Is it once every second day? Like, I don't know. I'm just putting that out there, right?
Do we have to measure it?
Not necessarily.
Mhm. I mean,
Good
I
question.
don't know that it needs to be measured, because
That's good.
then it becomes a tit for a tot, right? Oh,
Right.
I gave you a word of affirmation today. Now you need to give me a gift of service.
Right.
So I think the better thing is to be aware of what it is and to be
Right.
conscious about
Right.
pouring into your spouse and
Hmm.
speaking to their love language consistently, whatever consistently means to you or for
Right.
them,
Right.
to be able to get it back.
Hmm.
It's my thought.
And no, and that's beautiful. It doesn't, and I was just going to get feedback on it. It doesn't have to be measured. It just got to show up whenever it needs to show up.
Yeah.
And make itself known. Love language. Michelle, whatever wise which your husband knew about your love language. I don't know what your love language is. Does he know your love language? You know his love language?
Believe it or not, after almost being married for 30 years, my husband is, I feel like he already knew my love language. He just didn't want to do it, but he's doing it now. And so mine would be more of acts of service. And definitely I'm coming home and dinner is cooked and all this stuff. And I'm like, what is going on? Then I learned to just be like, I'm so grateful. Thank you very much. Let me go and sit down. Because I'm that person will go find something else to do. And then I'm still busy and worn out and whatever. But I've learned to be like, I can sit down. I can relax. I
Beautiful.
can relate.
Right, right.
So my point is that as far as the love languages, I think it's definitely a great thing to learn what your spouse's love language is. But then it's also good when it goes back to communication. If, for example, let's say I'm in tune and I know what my spouse's love language is and I'm practicing that, and you're then don't feel slighted if he doesn't do the same to you, because he may not understand that. So you still
Right.
may have to communicate with someone and say, hey, this is what's going on. But I do have a question. Like I'm even saying you should communicate, but I know that there have been times when my husband, I'll give you an example. He will say to me, I'm the kind of person that I need you. If you see that I'm spending too much time with other people and I'm neglecting our relationship, like I'm not, talking to you and caring for you and all that stuff,
Okay.
then let me know. So he's telling me, he's communicating. But I'm the
Okay.
kind of person where I feel like if I have to tell you to treat me special, now I don't
Right.
want it, because I want you to
Mm.
naturally just do it. And I think a lot of people get stuck in those situations where I may know I'm telling my husband my words of this is not Michelle, but words of affirmation is my thing. And then but I'm also that person who would tell you that, and then if you do it that same day, I'm looking at, well, you only tell me that because I said it. Especially when they don't do it again any other time later. So I think there are people out there too who they're trying to understand each other, but don't always know the best way to compromise, because they feel like, oh, you're just doing it because I mentioned it, or you're just doing that because I said something about it last week.
No, good. It's good when we do know one another's love language and how it shows up without even thinking about it. Like you said, for 30 years, it sounds like he always knew. So my thing is that I believe the way we treated one another when we first met, it's the way we should continue to treat one another as we continue on the journey. We might have some challenges, yes, okay. We'll have some things that comes up in our life, but at the same time, how did you treat me when we first started? Because you said, like, I shouldn't have to tell you because I didn't tell you when you met me. You asked me a lot of questions when you met me. You wanted to get to know me. So so at the same time, Marsha got out here for whatever reason. So at the same time, yeah, keep on doing what you've always done, and we're going to live a happily ever after life.
What
So
if you
we
don't
got
you I wouldn't say you don't like your spouse's love language.
okay. It's going to be another part 4. Hey, that's being real. Okay. So it
Is
becomes a challenge to you.
is
Go
it
ahead,
for you to
Marcia.
like his? It's his love language. It's not yours. Are you supposed to like it?
Well, like
Just asking.
I'm just saying physical touching.
Well, it sounds like there needs to be some compromise going on there. Somebody help her.
Actually, Karen, physical touching, it's proven that that's most men's love language. Um, touching, physical
Mhm.
touching. That's majority of men, that's their love language. And
But what
see,
if it's not yours
you see,
and
again,
it's
if you're not inclined that way, you know how
Mhm.
we talked about the different the incompatibility and the compatibility. So you're not inclined that way, but you have to remember, as I believe, as Marcia says, it's his love language, it is not yours. So even though you're not inclined that way, you're going to have to find a way to meet your husband halfway, where you have to try to learn his love language and act in that vein so
you
that
know,
he can also, you know, experience love from you,
Yeah,
right? So it's not
because
just about
I'm
you. Oh,
sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead, Marcia.
You're speaking.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Go
I
ahead.
may not want to give my husband words of affirmation every day. Like I might not want to do that because that's just I'm like,
Right.
what, like why do you need me to say that to you every day?
Mhm.
Or, not necessarily every day, but whatever. But it's
It's the
about
same
me.
thing that
Come to this where it's not about me. It's what brings him joy. It's what makes him feel good about himself, or him
Yeah.
feeling like I love him. Then hey, that's what I do. Because what's it taking from me? Because at the end of the day, he's going to be able to pour back into me.
Yeah.
so I understand a little
But
bit what oh, go ahead.
no, I was just saying, like, it can get complex, and I know Michelle said there's not tit for tat or whatever, but if,
Right.
like, over so many years or whatever, that person is not getting your love language and you're not receiving it, you're receiving the touchy touchy, but you're not receiving yours, then it gets to a point where that touchy touchy is annoying.
Ingrid said something, and I think not so it's in the last session or when I spoken to her and we had a conversation there, is that you want me to meet you physically, but yet which is one of your need and your love language, but at the same time you're not willing to meet my need, which is my emotion. You're not willing to meet my emotional need. If you if you try to meet my emotional need, I will also try to meet your physical need. So that conversation and that, you know, as we just mentioned here, would have to be a
Communication.
conversation, would have to be communicated. Physical touch, and so
But you
physical
guys
touch is some.
understand what I'm saying? Like, it can get to a point where it gets like, it
So
could
if you,
just be me that I need to adjust myself,
okay,
but
Yeah.
you can reach to that point where you're like, you know what, he ain't getting it, and you touch me one more time, like
and that's because, and my question to you is, has your need been met, or is your need being met? I mean, couples time past where physical touch, they might want to be intimate sometimes twice a day, or almost every day of the weekend. Like, how does one keep up with that? When there's so much else going on in their lives. So it's
it's
not that I
not
don't
even,
want
it
to.
doesn't even have to be that level. It could just be touching and like just
So,
sorry.
so is it because of him, or was there any issue with physical touch even in the past where that might
Maybe,
have shut that part of it of your
maybe.
so that
Yeah,
could be a
trauma can come into play. I could see that.
yeah. So we can have a off conversation on that later on if you want, but that's concerned.
I mean, and I think it's, if people, I don't want to say the word, I don't want to say the word triggered, but I just said the word triggered. So now it's already, but if a certain thing elicits a certain response, I think you have to figure out why.
Right.
Like, why do
That's
I
right.
feel this way when X and X happens? And I think understanding the why helps you address yourself, but you don't even know the why. So then
Hmm.
you're responding and not understanding your own self, which goes back
Right.
to the whole mourning process, right? I think
Right.
everything starts there. When
Hmm.
you're able to invest in yourself and become more in tune with who you are, then you're able to communicate your needs to your partner. But you also know what you want and you like, and you can communicate that without it being like offensive or abrasive, and they're going to perhaps be understanding.
No, absolutely. And like you said, a lot of the touch, and I've heard that before also. What is the trigger that maybe I haven't really fully dealt with? It's something. It's an area that I possibly need to dive in a bit to understand the why, which would help me to accommodate that action of touch more readily because he enjoys doing that. So let's have some conversation where that's concerned. So, we can have some conversation offline on that if you'd like. Um, yeah, dive into
I'm
that a little
always
bit
the
further.
complex one.
No, you're not. Stop. We've talked before. Actually, we've talked to each
You you are
individually.
not complex at all. I think it's just
No,
more of everyone understanding. Like we're all a lot alike in a lot of ways. All meaning like
absolutely.
just the world in like the how we are, mentally how we think, and that's why a lot of times that's why you have therapists. That's why you have people who study love language,
That's
who
right.
study all these things. So we have
Hmm.
a lot of similarities, but at least yet you also are an individual person with unique situations, and that's why I think it's awesome to have somewhere where you can talk and you can ask those questions, and the fact that you are actually open to learning and hearing the answer, because you're actually taking
Right.
notes. You're not just like,
Yeah.
let me just
Yeah.
ask and be cantankerous and
Hmm.
buffer back. You're actually trying to learn, so please
Right.
do not feel bad at all.
Absolutely. And thanks for chiming in with that, Michelle. I approve of that message. Ladies, I thank you all for joining me here tonight. We have Karen, we have Michelle, we have Marcia, and Ingrid. Thank you, ladies, for coming in with me here tonight. Those that are listening, our conversation was all about whatever wives wished your husband knew. We covered a lot of grounds here within the last three episodes that we've had here. So looking forward for more conversation going forward. And somebody said to me, well, what about us men? What does every husband wish their wives knew? So, okay.
Yeah.
Then somebody said, well, maybe you should have the battle of the sexes. I says, oh, okay, hold on a minute now. So there's conversation that's coming out of this. There's a lot of individuals that's listening and really grateful for what the conversation that we've been having. So
I would
I am
look
your
forward to
go
the
ahead.
not look forward to the battle, but I would look forward to having the men on and having a panel of them
The men,
sharing
right?
their perspective.
Yes. So that's what I've been hearing. So that's coming up. So last words, Karen. I know we're a little bit over, but Karen, Michelle, Marsha, Ingrid, any last words before we just sign off here that you'd like to just put out there for the
Good
husbands?
session. Very good session. Thank you, Bonitto, for this platform. Thank you.
All right, and thank you for coming on, Michelle.
Nope, I think I've said enough.
I just love you. Come a long ways, Marsha.
I
And the
think
last
this is
words close out.
great. I really appreciate being here for the first time. I think these conversations are always illuminating and revealing, and I truly appreciate Karen's transparency, because
Yeah,
I
right.
think that a lot of people have the questions that she has and may not
Yes.
have the courage to speak up and
Hmm.
say them. So, Karen, thank you for being a voice to those who don't have the courage to speak up. So, um,
Amen.
thank you.
Thanks.
Well done. Ingrid, any last comments before we sign off here tonight?
Actually, I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation that we had, and I also learned a lot as I was listening. But I just want to just encourage Karen and just to add to the fact that we're talking about, compatibility and incompatibility. Here's an area where there's a possible incompatibility. And I think, once we take the time to fit in and learn the other person's dislikes, likes, or what doesn't work for you, is an
Right.
opportunity to me to bridge that gap where your marriage was once deficient, you can now make it something beautiful. So it's an area to explore to make you guys come together as one and remove that deficiency in your marriage.
Beautiful. So I'm your host, Bonitto Grange, your relationship and life coach. We're signing off tonight. Tune in again next Friday at 5:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on Transforming Your Relationship. It's all about love, folks, trust, communication, intimacy, and so much more. Love to have you every Friday at 5:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Thank you again, ladies. God bless and have a wonderful evening. Wherever you might be, it might be a wonderful day, it might be a wonderful night, but may the Lord go with you, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you.